Part 26. Fantasy. After thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 258. Naturally, Xianyu would not sit idly by in response to such a provocation. The most powerful giant sitting in the Imperial Pass came out of the gate and directly called on the forces of the Immortal Realm to assemble an army to fight against the foreign realm. The two sides fought fiercely along the original dividing line. At first, the Immortal Domain forces thought that this war would end soon. After all, if there are no resources to fight for, foreign lands will not launch meaningless wars. However, as the war continued, the forces in the 8 domains of Kinkan reacted one after another. It seems that foreign land is getting serious this time. It can be clearly felt that the number of strong men sent from foreign lands is not only increasing, but also their strength is getting stronger. Even the old monsters who had survived from the ancient immortal era were sent out in large numbers. The small-scale battles that broke out on both sides gradually turned into a full-scale attack. Caught off guard, the immortal domain forces were directly attacked by foreign domain into the core area of their jurisdiction, and even gradually approached the Imperial Pass. Although I don't know why the foreign land suddenly went crazy, the forces in the fairy land will naturally not sit still and wait for death. In the 8 domains of Kinkan, the major forces dispatched their main forces, and the mighty immortal domain army launched into the war, aiming to annihilate the invading alien races in one fell swoop. The battle between the two sides became more and more shocking, and countless creatures were stained with blood every day. And this fight lasted for millions of years. Just when the creatures in the immortal realm were paying more and more attention to the war at the Imperial Pass, an astonishing news spread crazily throughout the immortal realm. There are dark creatures gathering in the Boundary Sea. Even as long as you step on the promotion, you can clearly see the boundless dark creatures in the Boundary Sea. When this news spread, both the forces in the 8 realms of the universe and the creatures from the fairy realm who were fighting with foreign realms outside the Imperial Pass were extremely shocked. Is this dark turmoil breaking out again? The boundary of earthquake area, Taoyi Holy Land. Is the news true? Are there really dark creatures appearing in the World Sea? Qin Hao, who was in retreat for enlightenment, suddenly opened his eyes with a look of shock. It is certain that this foreign invasion is to cooperate with the dark creatures in the World Sea. The Kanglong Immortal King's expression was quite solemn, with a strong murderous intent. Unexpectedly, after a long period of time, darkness and turmoil broke out in the Boundary Sea. Qin Hao's expression was also quite solemn, and his eyes flickered. He has been exploring the Boundary Sea for more than 100 years, but he has not found any signs of dark creatures. Now, why suddenly, such terrifying dark creatures appear across the Boundary Sea? You know, the sea is so big that even the most powerful immortal king would have to fly for thousands or even tens of thousands of years before he could reach the end of the Boundary Sea. This would also require good luck and not encounter various disasters in the Boundary Sea. In hundreds of years, it was impossible for those dark creatures to cross the Boundary Sea so quickly. Of course, they were surprised. Since the dark turmoil broke out, Qin Hao naturally couldn't stay out of it. It can be said that the current fairy land is in a dark turmoil and in the double attack of foreign races from outside the territory. If you are not careful, the immortal domain, which has been prosperous and inherited for endless years, is very likely to be subverted. Not only Qin Hao, but all the ancient giants in the immortal domain were alarmed. Even the great immortal lords, they are all born one after another and go to the sea of promotion. Although the immortal realm is vast and boundless, formed by billions of universes, the entire immortal realm is covered by the laws of the immortal Dao. There are only 2 entrances to the immortal realm. One is the Imperial Pass. Beyond the Imperial Pass is the uninhabited land, connecting all the heavens and realms. The second is the Boundary Sea. If the Imperial Pass is the front door of the immortal realm, then the Boundary Sea is equivalent to the back door of the immortal realm. The Boundary Sea is boundless in Wuji. You can go to the Boundary Sea by walking out of the Imperial Pass and passing through the endless no man's land. But the strong men in the Immortal Realm usually cross the dam from the Immortal Realm and go directly to the Boundary Sea. There have been rumors since ancient times. The dam was built by the Immortal Emperors in the Emperor's era to isolate the Boundary Sea. In addition, there is another way to enter the Immortal Realm. That is to ascend from the lower universe through the Immortal Ascension platform of the Immortal Realm. But this road is only used by creatures from the lower world who ascend to the fairy world. Foreign lands usually come from all over the world to conquer the Imperial Pass. Dark chaos comes directly from the dam, making it impossible to prevent. There is no way to avoid it. Whoa! In the flash of fairy light, Qin Hao and the Kanglong Immortal King were speeding in front of the embankment. In the distant world, an ancient embankment high into the sky spanned the sky and the earth. A vast ancient and majestic atmosphere from the era of emperors. The waves spread out. At this time, on the embankment, figures could be seen at any time, looking at the distant sea. The expressions of those figures were more solemn than the others, and the atmosphere was extremely solemn. Qin Hao and his two men flashed with fairy light, climbed the embankment. Beyond the embankment, there is a vast sea with no end in sight, which seems to lead to the end of the world. At this time, above the waves, there are waves surging into the sky, like an ancient beast, about to wake up. In that world in the far distance of the sea, you can see the appearance of dark creatures with a mass of blackness. Those dark creatures are different from foreign races outside the territory. They seem to be transformed from the origin of darkness, and they have no aura of life at all. Dei Immortal King. Kanglong Immortal King. Seeing Qin Hao and Kanglong Immortal King coming up, the countless Immortal King giants on the embankment all looked with fear. One of them was an extremely ancient giant who had been born before the Immortal Ancient, and had followed the quasi-immortal Emperor in the Boundary Sea. Although one of them was they had just risen, but as soon as they entered the Immortal King realm, they reached the top of the Immortal King and were on par with the Immortal Lord. Their arrival naturally caused quite a commotion. There is no aura of a quasi-immortal Emperor. After observing intently for a long time, Kanglong Immortal King looked moved and slowly spoke. Could it be that it is hidden in secret, or that it cannot be sensed? Qin Hao also didn't sense the existence of the terrifying creature that transcended the Immortal King. Now that there is no emperor in the immortal domain, there should be no need for the quasi-immortal emperor creatures in the Boundary Sea to hide anything. Kanglong Immortal King shook his head slightly. That means, can the immortal realm be destroyed by just sending out Immortal King level beings? Qin Hao murmured to himself. The current situation in the immortal realm is indeed not good. The foreign attacks are becoming more and more fierce. In the immortal realm, the three great immortal lords from the Liu, Sunyu, and Jinyu are all coming to the front line. Now, in the immortal realm, at least one-third of the combat power was contained by the foreign realm. Phew! At this time, there was a sound of breaking wind, and an ancient chariot branded with ancient patterns and surrounded by fairy light came through the sky. On that ancient chariot, there is a word Qian, which contains the eternal fighting spirit. The immortal Lord Kinyu has arrived. There was quite a commotion on the embankment. Even among the 8 immortal lords, there are strong and weak ones. Among the 8, there is no doubt that the immortal Lord Kinyu is the most powerful giant. Sure enough, a powerful immortal, a majestic figure walked out of the chariot. It was the immortal Lord Kinyu. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 259. Dei Immortal King, Kanglong Immortal King. After the immortal Lord Kinyu arrived, he approached Qin Hao and the two of them, clasping his fists and smiling. Aren't the other immortals coming? Qin Hao and Kanglong Immortal King asked after returning the gift. Of course it will come, the darkness is turbulent, it is related to the life and death of the fairyland, and no one can stay out of it. Kinyu Immortal Lord said. He also turned his head and looked at the distant sea. There was a faint look of worry in his eyes. Takeshuan Immortal King was preparing to attack the Emperor realm, but turmoil suddenly broke out in the sea of the world. At this time, is it a coincidence? Phew. The situation was just as the Immortal Lord Kinyu said. Not long after, the other 4 Immortal Lords arrived one after another. Behind the 4 of them, there was also a mighty army of immortal cultivators, a mass of darkness. Damn, it is also very obvious that they are divided into several major camps. On one side is the Kinyu Immortal Lord. On the other side are Qin Hao and Kang Long Immortal King and others. On the other side are the 3 great immortals of Jinyu, Kanyu, and Duiyu. Kunyu the Immortal Lord does not have a team and maintains a neutral attitude. Of course, although the forces in the immortal domain are not in harmony, the army of dark creatures is in front, and no one dares to cause chaos. Under the order of the Immortal Lord of the Qian domain, the arriving Immortal King Giant and True Immortal the Strong Ones formed an orderly formation. Among the millions of immortal cultivators gathered on the embankment, only a few hundred people were free to fight. Jinyu and other 3 immortals, as well as Qin Hao, Kang Long Immortal King and others, naturally, they were among the hundreds of people. Boom. After waiting for 5 days, the dark creatures from the depths of the sea swept over with boundless momentum. Even though they were still hundreds of millions of miles apart, the immortal cultivators on the dam can clearly sense the monstrous killing calamity that will destroy the heaven and the earth. It seems that as long as the dark army rushes in, the fairyland will collapse. The giants of the Immortal King realm are okay, but those true immortals Shiu, but many of them are trembling. The strength of an individual seems extremely small in front of this dark army coming like a tsunami. Form a formation. The Kinyu Immortal Master looked solemnly and ordered in a cold voice. There seemed to be some kind of fairy sound in his voice, which dispelled the fear in the hearts of the real immortals. Buzz buzz. Immediately, under the leadership of the giant Immortal King, the immortal cultivators on the embankment condensed ancient barriers and killing arrays. These barriers and killing arrays were connected together, ready for both offense and defense. The momentum of millions of immortal cultivators merged into one at this moment, and they immediately blocked the terrifying pressure of dark creatures swept across. At the same time, in the sky above the embankment, there were 5 rounds of immortal seals condensed, and mysterious immortal magic was scattered. The 5 immortal seals were transformed by the laws of the great roads of the 5 regions. The immortal seals shined everywhere. Even if they leave the immortal realm, the Kinyu Immortal Lord and the other 5 people can still bless their bodies with the laws of the great Dao and possess Immortal Lord level combat power. Suddenly, Qin Hao, who was looking at the army of dark creatures, condensed his eyes. As the army of darkness rushed past, Qin Hao saw 10 dark ancient temples from the depths of the boundary sea. The endless darkness, the creatures seemed to be swarming out of those dark ancient temples. Can the dark creatures in the boundary sea use those dark ancient temples to directly cross the boundary sea? If this is the case, it would be too scary. Let's not talk about other things. The dark ancient palace can directly tear apart the space barrier and descend to the immortal realm. Once those dark ancient temples appear in the immortal realm, the disaster they will bring will be immeasurable. Take action. When those dark creatures were only 1,000,000 miles away, Immortal Lord Kinyu gave the order in a cold voice with a piercing murderous intention. Immediately, on the embankment, a square battle formation lit up with bright fairy light, and there was an overwhelming killing force. Technique, bombing out of the sky. Millions of immortal cultivators, under the leadership of the Immortal King, concentrated the destruction and killing techniques to attack. Boom. The world trembled, and the attacking dark army immediately it was the death of the body and the death of the soul. In just the blink of an eye, tens of thousands of dark creatures died. Seeing that the offensive was so effective, the immortal army on the embankment was greatly encouraged, and the immortal killing became even more ferocious. But even so, the impact of the army of dark creatures was not affected at all. These dark creatures all surrounded the source of darkness, and they were not afraid of death, and exploded head-on. Roar! Behind those dark creatures, dark whirlpools appeared one after another. From those dark whirlpools, extremely terrifying and ferocious beasts rushed out. Each one was as big as a mountain, covered with thick scales, exuding boundless magical power. Although the ferocious beast was huge, its speed was extremely astonishing. When it broke through the space, it arrived first and rushed towards the barrier set up by the immortal army. The barrier shook violently, as if the heaven and earth were shaking. Countless true immortal creatures were impacted, all vomiting blood, and their breaths were extremely messy. Cut. The immortal king giants at the head of the battle formation gathered the power of the battle formation and slashed out fiercely. There was a popping sound, black blood exploded, and the dark beasts that rushed towards were all suppressed and killed. But from those dark whirlpools, there was a steady stream of dark beasts rushing out. In a short time, tens of thousands of dark beasts rushed out. At the same time, the countless dark armies had also rushed out. 2. This immediately doubled the pressure on the immortal realm army, and the barrier shook violently. Destroy those whirlpools. Kinyu immortal master's eyes narrowed slightly, and he immediately ordered to send people to destroy those dark whirlpools. Whoa! Almost as soon as Kinyu immortal master's voice rose, a figure sometimes turned into a kunpeng, and sometimes was surrounded by thunder, breaking through the sky at extremely high speeds. And came out. That person was Qin Hao. This is why Qin Hao and hundreds of others were left behind and were not incorporated into the battle formation. Phew! Behind Qin Hao, Kanglong immortal king, Jinayu immortal lord, Kanyu immortal lord and others rushed out of the sky one after another. Die! Suddenly, there was a flash of black light. A dark creature, holding a demonic blade that cut off the sky, came towards Qin Hao with overwhelming murderous aura. This was a fallen dark immortal king. With one slash, a huge sword light appeared in the sky, like a river of stars, crossing the sky and the earth. Kill the demon king. He didn't die, but fell into darkness. Careful! On the embankment, there is a giant immortal king. They recognized the fallen immortal king as one of the famous immortal king giants in the immortal domain in the past. They originally thought that the demon-slaying immortal king had died in the world sea, so there has been no news since then. But who would have thought that this ancient giant would actually fall into darkness and become a member of the Dark Army? Double pupils. Qin Hao, who was escaping at extremely high speed, stared at the demon-slaying immortal king. His double pupils were filled with mysterious symbols, densely packed with ancient power brewing. Poof! The next moment, a divine light flashed in his double pupils. That with overwhelming killing power, the demon-slaying immortal king attacked Qin Hao, and his whole body exploded. Black blood spread all over the sky like rain. No way! The giant from the immortal realm who originally warned Qin Hao froze on the spot. The once famous demon-slaying immortal king was actually killed at a glance. Even though Qin Hao's combat power is comparable to that of an immortal master, isn't this too terrifying? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 260. Destroy the immortal king with one glance, it is worthy of being called the immortal eyes. Seeing that scene, there was a dazzling light in the eyes of the Kanglong immortal king. Once a person with double pupils becomes a master, he is said to be invincible in heaven and on earth, and his fighting power is unparalleled in ancient and modern times. When he saw it today, he really lived up to his reputation. This guy. The cultivation level is also becoming more and more terrifying. Janayu Immortal Lord, Kanyu Immortal Lord, and Duiyu Immortal Lord all looked fiercely in the eyes. They didn't use the immortal killing sword, but just used the pupil technique to kill an ancient immortal king with one glance. This shows Qin Hao's current combat power. It has reached such a point of destruction. The three of them looked at each other calmly, with a ruthless look in their eyes. Although Qin Hao remained silent for some reason, they could not wait any longer. With Qin Hao's heaven-defying qualifications, who knows when he will break through the immortal king realm and become a quasi-immortal emperor. If that time comes, then they will have no chance of succeeding and will have to wait to die. No wonder he is so valued by Kangsheng Immortal King, Taixuan Immortal King and others. Qinyu Immortal Lord was also amazed. Qin Hao has the appearance of becoming an emperor. Roar. At this time, there was a thunderous roar, and dozens of dark ferocious beasts opened their teeth and claws to attack Qin Hao. The combat power of these dark ferocious beasts is definitely enough to rank among the top ranks in the Immortal King realm. However, they have no intelligence at all, and their huge eyes are filled with violent and bloodthirsty intentions. 6 Paths of Samsara Fist. Desolation Sword Technique. Qin Hao's eyes were cold, his left hand turned into a fist, and his right hand turned into a sword. A huge reincarnation disc condensed between heaven and earth, filled with the energy of the 6 paths. It seemed to go straight to the 9 nether purgatory and could save all spirits. With the appearance of the reincarnation disc, there was a bright sword light, like a bright star river, which penetrated directly through the heaven and earth, shattering the 9 heavens. Bang, rumble. The 6 paths of reincarnation disc and the desolation sword art passed by, and the dozens of dark beasts that were culled were all flesh and blood. Explode, the body is dead and the soul is extinguished. With the blessing of the 7 reincarnation seals, the power of the 6 reincarnation fists has reached a terrifying level. In addition, the desolation sword technique combined with the Zuxian sword intent also multiplies the killing power, and one sword can destroy 10,000 people. Area. Kill. Kanglong Immortal King, Janayu Immortal Lord and others naturally did not watch the show, and attacked with destructive killing techniques. They each rushed into a dark vortex, bringing a bloody storm along the way. Of course, except for Janayu Immortal Lord, except for the 3 of them and Qin Hao, the other immortal kings from the immortal realm, even those as powerful as the Kanglong Immortal King, all attacked in groups of 3 to 5. After all, when they left the barrier of the dam, they were directly breaking into the army of dark creatures. Even in a team of 3 to 5, we are still outnumbered, and if we are not careful, we may die. As for the giants of the Immortal King, the dark creatures in the Realm C are no less than those in the Immortal Realm. Click. Suddenly, a clear and crisp sound appeared in the midst of this violent and destructive battle. Not good. Qinyu Immortal Master looked at it intently, and his expression changed. He saw that a crack had appeared in the barrier on the dam. Although there was only a tiny trace, the air of darkness seeped in, exuding a biting chill. That all the creatures in the immortal realm in this area have suffered huge backlash, and their auras are extremely chaotic. In front of the endless army of darkness, the barriers laid by millions of immortal cultivators in the immortal realm are simply not enough. This kind of terrifying impact is in if it continues for a while, the entire dam barrier will be completely destroyed. In a flash of immortal light, the immortal Lord of Qinyu appears at the crack as fast as teleportation, and seals the crack with the supreme ancient method. Boom! At this moment, an earth-shattering bombing sound resounded. But it was Qin Hao who rushed out first. He had already broken through the many blockades and directly blasted the dark vortex with his supreme magic power. Along with the violent explosion, space ripples, and many dark ferocious beasts that are trying to break out of the dark vortex are all broken into pieces, with their flesh and blood shattered. Hateful! When did such a vicious person appear in the immortal realm? Among those dark creatures, there are many fallen immortal kings with rather ugly faces. Qin Hao's fighting power is not weaker than the 8 immortal lords, and his killing power is even more ferocious. Kill him. When the fallen immortal kings hesitated, a cold voice came into their ears. The bodies of the fallen immortal kings trembled. Sure enough, although they did not show up, those existences have always been hidden in the dark. Immediately, those fallen immortal kings and countless dark creatures were like rivers rushing towards Qin Hao. There were more than 100,000 people in such a destructive formation, and even the void almost collapsed wherever they passed. Broken. Although most of them are true immortal level creatures, there are also tens of thousands of immortal king level giants. When the monstrous formation is overwhelmed, even the immortals will feel trembling. Now. But Qin Hao's expression did not change at all. With a thought in his mind, the immortal killing sword appeared in his hand. Cut. Immediately afterwards, when the Xuxian sword was swung, billions of brilliant sword energy fell like a violent storm. Qin Hao, who used the Xuxian sword, was not as powerful as before. Compared with before, Qin Hao's combat power was not as simple as adding more wings to a tiger. Brilliant no matter whether they were true immortal level creatures or immortal king level giants, they were all killed by the sword energy. No dark creature was strong enough to withstand the power of Qin Hao's sword. Are they really quasi-immortal emperor soldiers? Is this what those immortal emperors left behind in the past, or has a quasi-immortal emperor been born in the immortal realm? In the depths of the Boundary Sea, there are several dark ancient palaces floating. On each dark ancient palace, there is a creature with a dark aura and terrifying. Their dark and indifferent eyes all fell on the Xuxian sword in Qin Hao's hand. Xuxian sword, the killing power is much more terrifying than what they have heard. Form a dark formation and block the laws of immortality. And when they saw Qin Hao, who was surrounded by hundreds of thousands of dark creatures, but went on a killing spree, as if he was in a deserted land, the immortal king-level creatures all felt horrified. Such invincible combat power was like an immortal. The emperor came to this world, as powerful as the giant immortal king, but also vulnerable. Therefore, without any hesitation, they immediately used an ancient formation map to condense a dark killing formation. As soon as the killing formation came out, the void with a radius of hundreds of millions of miles was instantly transformed. Blocked by the air of darkness. Above the dam, the condensed and manifested five-wheel immortal seals were greatly affected. The scattered mysterious immortal magic was all covered and blocked by the air of darkness. This is the eyes of Jinayu Immortal Lord, Duiyu Immortal Lord, Kanyu Immortal Lord and other three people suddenly changed. They clearly feel that the laws of the immortal realm that originally blessed them are constantly weakening. The laws of immortality in this void of heaven and earth are also gradually dissipating. No, we have to evacuate. At this time, they no longer care about destroying the dark vortex. Once the immortal law is completely dissipated, they in this world will withdraw from the realm of immortal lord and become the pinnacle of immortal king. In such a dark disaster, what use can a supreme immortal king do? Even someone as powerful as the Kanglong Immortal King cannot fight against such terrifying dark creatures alone. If they do not evacuate, once they are entangled, even if there is no life or death. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 261. Whoosh. Immediately, Jinayu Immortal Master and three other people immediately used the supreme secret method to blast away the surrounding dark creatures. Then, the three of them fled in the air at high speed without any hesitation or informing the other immortal kings. They ran away. Those groups of 3 to 5, who were also the giants of the immortal kings who were in danger, completely did not expect that Jinayu Immortal Lord would escape at such a critical moment. The escape of the three Jinayu Immortal Lords directly caused them to suffer a lot. The pressure doubled, and the dark creatures attacking from all sides became more fierce. At this time, there were still a steady stream of dark beasts rushing out of the 9 dark vortexes. The pressure on the fairyland army on the embankment became even heavier, even if the immortal Lord of Kinyu and the immortal of Kunyu kept coming to the rescue, but there was no time to seal the cracks in the barrier. As the number of dark creatures like a tsunami increased, the immortal army on the embankment was about to be completely destroyed. Submerged. Walk. At this time, the other giants of the immortal king will naturally stop destroying those dark whirlpools and flee one after another. With the current situation, let alone whether they can successfully rush to those dark whirlpools. Even if they rush over and are lucky enough to destroy those dark whirlpools, they will be completely overwhelmed by the dark creatures, with no possibility of escape. Naturally, they will not do so if they risk their own lives in exchange for destroying a dark whirlpool. Seeing Chong the giant immortal kings who went out collapsed and ran away one after another. The face of the immortal Lord Kinyu was extremely ugly. But now, he had no time to scold him. Of course, even if he scolded it, it would be useless. He is indeed the strongest among the 8 immortal lords. But he can only suppress other immortal lords, but cannot directly kill them. Furthermore, at this critical moment, no matter how angry he is, he cannot take action against Jinyu immortal lord and others. Hold head high. At this time, a thunderous dragon roar resounded. It was the Kanglong immortal king who directly manifested his true body and turned into a 1,000,000-foot-long 5-clawed true dragon. The true dragon lay across the boundary sea, and there were true dragons all over his body. The aura filled the air, carrying the overwhelming power of the dragon, and rushed towards those dark whirlpools. Wherever the Kanglong immortal king passed, all the dark creatures and the fallen immortal king were swept away. Boom! Immediately afterwards, a divine dragon swinging its tail, the Kanglong immortal king's dragon's tail, with a killing power that could shatter thousands of star fields in the universe, struck hard on the dark vortex. The dark vortex was destroyed in response, and many dark beasts were shattered. But when the dark vortex was destroyed, the immortal king of the firmament also suffered destruction. The dragon scales all over his body exploded, and the golden dragon blood scattered in the air. Every drop of dragon blood was comparable to an immortal medicine, exuding astonishing fragrance, containing endless essence. Die! The Kanglong immortal king roared angrily. On each dragon scale, there were ancient dragon pattern talismans condensed, and then like a billion sharp swords, it exploded into the air at extremely high speed. He did not care about his own injuries at all, and in the tens of thousands of darkness among the creatures, they fight vertically and horizontally. The target is the next dark whirlpool. Kanglong immortal king can see that those dark beasts are obviously some kind of puppet creatures, fearless of death, and endless. If those darkness are not removed, if the whirlpool is destroyed, the dam barrier will be broken by those dark beasts without the help of other dark creatures. Once the dam barrier is opened, the entire fairyland will fall into the endless army of darkness. Even in today's fairyland realm, he has no descendants and no moral lineage, but he still cannot sit back and watch the destruction of the immortal realm and remain indifferent. If not, he would not follow his master's footsteps and go deep into the sea of realm. Boom! In the manifestation of the true world, behind him, the combat power of Kanglong immortal king has obviously increased tremendously. Even the immortal king creatures who are also in the pinnacle realm are unable to block Kanglong immortal king's claw attack. Finally, in a bloody killing, Kanglong immortal king once again destroyed a dark vortex. However, the injuries on Kanglong immortal king were obviously more serious, and even the dragon bones in his body could be seen. He is worthy of being a peerless giant who has set foot on the immortal king before immortal ancient times. Seeing the mighty Kanglong immortal king, countless immortal creatures on the embankment were shocked. At this moment, the destructive combat power of the Kanglong immortal king was not weaker than the 8 immortal lords. Many people even felt that, if Kanglong immortal king steps into the position of immortal lord and is blessed by the laws of immortality, Even if he can be like Qin Hao, he can defeat hundreds of thousands with one person. Chirp. But suddenly, a violent and bloodthirsty phoenix cry resounded throughout the 9 days. I saw a blood phoenix burning with dark flames, coming through the sky like a hurricane, bringing with it boundless evil energy, enough to shatter the sky. Immortal phoenix. No, it has turned into a dark blood phoenix. On the embankment, there were screams of exclamation. The giant creatures in the immortal realm recognized the flaming blood phoenix. It was one of the 10 evil spirits who rebelled against the alien realm in the ancient times, the immortal phoenix. And the 10 evil creatures who were high in the past were the immortal beast has turned into a fallen blood phoenix. But it is undeniable that the immortal phoenix's combat power has indeed transformed after falling into darkness. Immortal phoenix. The Kanglong immortal king immediately noticed it, stepped on the fairy light and rose into the sky, charging towards the dark blood phoenix. The 2 ancient 10 evil spirits who had reached the peak of the immortal king started a fierce fight between heaven and earth. Countless worlds in the world sea were destroyed. Shattered. Countless dark creatures were affected and died in an instant. The encounter between the Kanglong immortal king and the dark blood phoenix was a life and death fight. On the 9 days, there was only the interweaving of golden fairy light and dark blood light, making it impossible for the creatures on the sea to escape. Neither of them could be seen. Click. After Kanglong immortal king and Qin Hao were all restrained, the dark army of Jahei immediately swarmed towards the fairy land barrier on the embankment. In bursts after the earth-shaking bombing sounded, extremely horrifying and terrifying cracks appeared on the barrier on the embankment. Can't stop it? Janayu Immortal Lord and others' expressions changed drastically. There was no doubt that the barrier of the dam was about to be broken through. Boom. Sure enough, when the dark creatures from the boundary sea crashed into the barrier again. Those millions of immortals, the creatures of the realm, working together to set up the dam barrier, were shattered. The dark creatures, like a tide, immediately rushed up the embankment and drowned the army of the fairy realm. Kill them. They must not be allowed to rush into the immortal realm. The immortal Lord Kinyu's face was extremely solemn. After offering a Taoist talisman, he held the immortal king soldier and roared towards the incoming dark army. Phew. Above the embankment, in the 5-wheeled immortal seal, an immortal the seal was integrated into the body of the immortal Lord Kinyu, causing the immortal Lord Kinyu's momentum to skyrocket, just like the death god coming to the world. Wherever the immortal Lord Kinyu stood, all the dark creatures in a radius of millions of feet were instantly turned into powder. Kill. Seeing this, the Kunyu immortal, the Janayu immortal, the Kanyu immortal, and the Duyu immortal all fused their immortal seals one after another to fight against the overwhelming dark army. Millions of immortal cultivators in the immortal realm, in their respective immortal under the leadership of the king, they used the battle formation as a position to defend with difficulty. But even so, the impact of those dark creatures was still too fierce and terrifying. Almost at the moment of collision, the immortal cultivator battle formation led by the immortal kings directly don't fly away. Tens of millions of dark creatures rushed over the dam and broke into the fairy land. Fantasy. After thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 262. Buzz. Just when those dark creatures rushed into the fairy land. In the sky above the 8 realms of the universe, there are mysterious and unpredictable Taoist laws that condense and form ancient Taoist formations. The 8 Taoist formations merged into one body to form a Bagua immortal formation, with overwhelming immortal power sweeping across and emanating from it. Immediately afterwards, on top of the 8 trigrams immortal formation, there were endless avenues of law condensed in 8 directions, each condensing an immortal talisman. Boom! The 8 immortal talismans shot out of the sky, and the shocking momentum they brought was like thousands of troops rushing forward. All the dark creatures that rushed towards them exploded and turned into black blood mist and disappeared into the void. Even dark creatures at the immortal king level cannot withstand the killing power of those 8 immortal talismans. Immediately afterwards, the dazzling fairy light exploded, and the 8 fairy lights turned into 8 ancient figures. Each figure is tens of millions of feet high, exuding an eternal and supreme aura. Transformed by the law of the Great Road, Janayu Immortal and others felt the supreme immortal power of the 8 ancient figures, and their expressions changed. Several of their great immortals were blessing their bodies with the laws of the great Dao, so they could naturally clearly sense the power contained in those 8 ancient figures. Laws of the great Dao. Those laws of the great Dao are even more terrifying than the immortal laws they control. It seems that what they control and bless is only the surface of the laws, and those 8 ancient figures are the origin of the immortal laws. This also makes the Janayu immortal lords and others are in disbelief. They don't know who they are, but they can actually have such means to condense the great laws of the 8 immortal realms. Are you still taking action? The Kinyu immortal lord's eyes flickered. The only one who can control the power of the laws of the entire 8 regions is the Taixuan immortal king who is in retreat. Because the original division of the immortal realm into 8 and the condensation of the laws of the great Dao was the Taixuan immortal king who was in retreat. Xianxian king is guiding. It seems that Taixuan Xian king has temporarily given up on attacking the emperor realm. Boom. The addition of the 8 ancient figures immediately stabilized the immortal realm army that was about to collapse. Those 8 ancient figures in front of the figure, all the dark creatures are completely insufficient to see. When the immortal law passes by, hundreds or thousands of dark creatures will be broken. And the 8 ancient figures, each other's immortal law, seem to be able to turn into a battle formation amplification. Even the 5 great immortal lords such as Kinyu immortal lord are far inferior to such terrifying combat power. Of course, the strength of those 8 ancient figures also made Kinyu immortal lord and others greatly relaxed. Take a breath. Bang. At this time, there is another deafening bombing sound, and there are violent law waves and explosions. Accompanying the roar, there is a rain of blood scattered all over the sky. The immortals on the embankment are fighting with the dark creatures. The domain expert looked intently. In the far distance, he saw that Qin Hao, who had been trapped by the dark creatures in a dark killing formation, had already broken out of the formation. The violent bombing sound just now was caused by Qin Hao's breakthrough. The killing formation was launched. At this time, Qin Hao was dressed in white clothes dyed with snow, holding a fairy sword, and exuding murderous aura. He seemed to be an unparalleled killing god who came out of the 9 nether purgatory. Under his feet, there were mountains of dark creatures. Crack. After taking a close look at the situation on the embankment, Qin Hao's body flashed with lightning, and he appeared in front of a dark vortex as fast as teleportation. The immortal killing sword slashed out, and the dark vortex was immediately destroyed. Bang bang bang. After that, Qin Hao used Kunpeng's extreme speed and Thunder Emperor's treasure technique to increase his speed, flashing across the boundary sea at high speed. Violent bombings sounded one after another. It was those whirlpools that kept pouring out dark ferocious beasts, which were all chopped up by Qin Hao. Good. Seeing Qin Hao taking action and destroying all the dark whirlpools, Kinyu Immortal couldn't help but cheer. Without those endless dark beast puppets, their pressure will be greatly reduced. But Janayu, however, the eyes of the 3 immortal lords twitched slightly, and they felt a strong sense of uneasiness in their hearts. Based on the current situation, the stronger Qin Hao's combat power is, the greater his help to the immortal territory will be. But for the immortal territory of Janayu, respecting 3 people is not a good thing. If it is just the dark army of Boundary Sea, even if it rushes into the fairyland, it will not be able to collapse the fairyland. Therefore, they are worried that after this war is over, Qin Hao's status will be higher than theirs. When the time comes, Qin Hao will come to settle the accounts again. Who is this guy? Such heaven-defying combat power is absolutely invincible in the Immortal King realm. Could it be that he was the quasi-immortal emperor predicted by the origin ancestral artifact? Even the mysterious creatures on the dark ancient palaces in the deepest part of the world sea have slightly focused eyes. Qin Hao's combat power is getting stronger with each battle, making it impossible for people to tell the truth. If it continues like this, then Qin Hao alone can influence the direction of the battle. Hold head high. At this time, above the 9 heavens, there was a shocking dragon roar. Immediately afterwards, there was a blazing dark blood rain, which immediately poured down. It was the rebellious dark blood phoenix who was killed by the Kanglong immortal king. He was torn apart alive, and even his soul was roaring to pieces. Kanglong immortal king flew down and turned into a human figure. His whole body was covered with wounds of destruction, and he looked like he was already dying. But Kanglong immortal king's fighting spirit, but it became more and more intense, even letting out a hearty laugh, and once again rushed into those dark creatures. Is this, to prove the truth through killing? Qin Hao, who originally exchanged the ancient elixir from the 9-story fairy tower, looked slightly moved. In his perception, the extremely seriously injured Kanglong immortal king had a special aura being born in his body. It seemed to be the law of the Great Avenue. Transformation. Kanglong immortal king holds the intention of death and wants to break through the bottleneck of immortal king and step into the level of quasi-immortal emperor. Die. When Qin Hao sensed the Kanglong immortal king, there were tens of thousands of dark creatures again. They were extremely ferocious and rushed towards them with piercing murderous intent. Puff. Qin Hao slashed with his hand, and billions of sword energy exploded like a tsunami, directly drowning the dark creatures that were killed. When the blood burst, most of the dark creatures that were killed or injured, and the rest fled in all directions. It looks like it should be able to stop it. After taking a look at the situation on the embankment, Qin Hao looked at the dark ancient palaces deep in the boundary sea. If his guess is correct, this army of dark creatures can come across the boundary sea, and it will definitely be the same as those. The dark ancient palace has something to do with it. After all, those dark ancient palaces can directly descend to the immortal realm, and it must be easy to cross the boundary sea. Immediately, Qin Hao's figure flashed, staring at the dark ancient palace in the middle. How dare you attack us? Seeing Qin Hao's actions, the eyes of the mysterious creatures on the dark ancient temple were cold to the bone. Since you want to die so much, then I will help you. Those dark creatures looked at each other and immediately used their secret skills to control those dark ancient palaces and burst out of the sky. Regardless of whether Qin Hao was the person predicted by the origin ancestor to be able to reach the level of the quasi-immortal emperor, but since he dared to attack them, if he attacks, he will die. Moreover, judging from Qin Hao's combat power, if he leaves it alone, it is really possible to break through the bottleneck of the immortal king realm in the future. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 263. Town. As the dazzling dark light exploded, the mysterious creatures on the 7 dark ancient temples were scattered in 7 directions. Qin Hao, who was rushing towards him, happened to be surrounded by the 7 dark ancient temples. It can be clearly seen that suddenly, he saw that the 7 dark ancient temples were scattered in the direction of the 7 stars, turning into a mysterious 7-star ancient formation. As the dark energy filled the air, Qin Hao's figure disappeared in an instant. Space laws. Qin Hao, who was in the 7 dark ancient palaces, also clearly felt the space fluctuations. But the power of laws contained in those space fluctuations was different from the space laws of the fairyland, but a more powerful and ancient one. Law. The origin of darkness at the end of the boundary sea. The way of law is stronger than the law of the fairyland. This thought made Qin Hao's heart jump violently. The stronger the law of heaven and earth, the stronger the strong people can be created. Just as in the past, Qin Hao was able to defy heaven and become an immortal in the Xianhuang universe and set foot on the immortal way. But if he wanted to step into the immortal king, he had to enter the immortal realm and understand the more powerful laws of the immortal way. The origin of darkness at the end of the world. See, no, there really are immortal emperor-level creatures hidden, right? Otherwise, how could the immortal emperors from the age of emperors never come back in the darkness and turmoil? Enchantment. Qin Hao, who was thinking and sensing his surroundings closely, found that he was trapped in a dark enchantment. There was endless dark energy, permeating around this dark enchantment. It was vast and boundless. Just a slight perception would reveal that it was unfathomable. A feeling of anticipation. Qin Hao manifested his double pupils and looked around carefully. It was obvious that he was no longer on the boundary sea. At this moment, dark energy surged in the 7 directions of the barrier, and 7 figures emerged. It was the mysterious creature that controlled the dark ancient palace before, evolved the 7-star killing array, and sealed him away. Quite calm. A firstborn with 1 horn, wearing ancient armor, seemed to be a creature from ancient times. He looked at Qin Hao indifferently, without any emotion in his eyes. He is neither an immortal king nor a quasi-immortal emperor. His aura is a bit weird. When the 1-horned creature spoke indifferently, Qin Hao also looked at the 7 creatures. The auras of these 7 creatures were indeed extremely weird. They said they were just immortal kings, but they were so strong that Qin Hao could feel them. Strong sense of danger. Ever since he became an immortal king after completing the 9-death method, Qin Hao has only felt a sense of danger in the immortal king Taixuan who plotted against the immortal emperor. But if he is a quasi-immortal emperor, it seems that it's too weak. After all, if it is a quasi-immortal emperor, let alone 7, even 1 is enough to suppress Qin Hao. Seeing that you have good qualifications, I will give you a chance to enter my Dark Emperor's court and serve under my emperor. At this time, a creature with 3 eyes between its eyebrows, and the 3rd eye flashed a strange pupil, and actually threw an olive branch to Qin Hao. Looking at him like that, it seemed that he wanted to win over Qin Hao. Dark Imperial Court? Emperor. Qin Hao couldn't help but twitching at the corners of his eyes when he heard this. Sure enough, there is a quasi-immortal emperor at the origin of darkness at the end of the world sea. Otherwise, these creatures who are obviously stronger than the immortal king would not be allowed to be called master. The adults in the ancestral land have reached a consensus that the immortal realm will be completely destroyed. If you don't want to die in this catastrophe, then you have no choice but to join us. Seeing Qin Hao's shock, the 3-eyed creature continued to speak. Will worshipping in your Dark Emperor's court allow me to step into the immortal emperor level? Qin Hao did not refuse or agree, but instead asked. Since you have entered the realm of the immortal king, you should know how far away there is between the immortal emperor level and us. From ancient times to the present, there are only a few people who have set foot on the quasi-immortal emperor, let alone the realm of no god. Hearing Qin Hao's words, the 3-eyed creature was startled and shook his head directly. He did not expect that Qin Hao's ambition was so great that he went directly to the realm of the immortal emperor. This was a bit too ignorant. The sky is too high, right? No matter how outstanding Qin Hao's qualifications are, it is impossible for him to reach the level of the immortal emperor. As far as I know, in the history of our immortal realm, there have been immortal emperors, and there was more than one. Seeing that the 3-eyed creature was so certain that he could not become an emperor, Qin Hao's heart moved slightly and continued. While speaking, Qin Hao's eyes were also looking at other mysterious creatures without any trace. It seems like you don't know anything. The 3-eyed creature sneered. It was not your immortal domain that gave birth to the immortal emperor, but those immortal emperors who created the Taoism of your immortal domain. Qin Hao narrowed his eyes slightly. The words of these 3-eyed creatures confirmed what Kangsheng immortal king said in the past. Kangsheng Immortal King once said that there is a realm above the Immortal Emperor. The 9-story Immortal Tower is stronger than the Immortal Emperor. There is refining. And the Immortal Emperors in the Age of Emperors also came from the mysterious place above the Emperor realm. But Qin Hao has searched countless ancient books and traveled around the Immortal realm over the past hundreds of years, but he has not found any clues. No clues were found about the origin of the Immortal Emperor. Qin Hao even visited Immortal King Taixuan for this purpose, but still found nothing. Unexpectedly, these dark creatures from the end of the world sea actually seem to know many secrets about the Immortal Emperor. So, even if I rebel against your Dark Emperor, I will always be the Immortal King. In this case, do I still need to betray you? The Immortal Realm is really going to be destroyed by you and others. At worst, I escape into the Sea of Realm, and you can't do anything to me, right? Qin Hao spread his hands, trying to get more information about the Immortal Emperor. As for extracting souls and refining souls, it is unlikely. These 7 creatures are very weird. It is not difficult to kill them. But if soul refining is needed, I'm afraid it won't work. Because the fluctuations of the souls of the 7 of them are obviously different from those of other dark creatures. Okay, this guy is obviously trying to trick you. The 3-eyed creature was about to speak when a sinister voice interrupted it. The speaker was a creature with green eyes, exuding extremely terrifying dark pressure. Have you been discovered? However, this should be what you want, right? You guys have been talking nonsense to me, don't you want to take the opportunity to set up this barrier-killing formation? Looking at the 7 mysterious creatures filled with murderous intent, Qin Hafeng said with a light smile. This guy. You've actually noticed it a long time ago. As soon as these words came out, the eyes of the 7 mysterious creatures with piercing murderous intent froze. They originally thought that Qin Hao was already a fish in the net, but they all felt a sense of wariness in their hearts. They knew their intentions, but they didn't show any concern at all. Care. There is no doubt that Qin Hao still has some big trump card hidden in him. Kill him. Immediately, the 7 dark creatures took action together. The source of darkness, as vast as the sea, swept towards Qin Hao overwhelmingly. At this moment, there were heavy waves in the void, and the entire barrier space was extremely unstable. I saw that among the dark origins, a ferocious creature with 9 heads condensed. The 9-headed creature was obviously just a Dharma form transformed by the dark origins, and had no real entity. However, the monstrous killing calamity emitted seemed to be it is enough to shatter all heavens and realms. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 264. Now. Feeling the unavoidable biting murderous intent coming from all directions, Qin Hao's eyes turned cold. Along with a low drink, 12 immortal statues emitting a prehistoric aura emerged around Qin Hao. Those who swept over him the origins of darkness were all blown away by the prehistoric aura, and they could not get close to Qin Hao at all. After that, the 12 ancestral witchcraft transformation formations, and the 12 capital gods and evil formations condensed and appeared. Qin Hao was in the center of the formation, holding the immortal killing sword, and the person was surrounded by the prehistoric aura. A supreme aura that seemed to be able to transcend the realm of the immortal king swept away, and the entire barrier was shaken. Boom! The 9-headed creature that rushed towards the sky with evil aura hit hard on the 12 capital heavenly divine evil formation. There was a surging source of darkness and a prehistoric aura of incomparable destruction, intertwined and exploded. This caused the already shaking barrier to tremble even more violently, as if it would collapse at any time. But in this collision, the 12 capital heavenly gods were completely motionless. But the 9-headed creature was directly bounced very far. The strength of the two was judged at this moment. This is, what kind of magic circle? Seeing this scene, the expressions of the three-eyed creature and the other 7 people all changed greatly, and they could not hide their shock. With the strength of the 7 of them, they worked together to display the Emperor's supreme killing technique, but they were blocked so easily. Live. Even, after receiving such a devastating impact, there was no fluctuation at all. Isn't this too terrifying? Even the quasi-immortal Emperor's magic circle is absolutely impossible, without such terrifying power. If the quasi-immortal Emperor doesn't come out, you just want to kill me. Qin Hao's eyes were cold and full of piercing murderous intent. Since he ascended to the immortal realm, Qin Hao has never used the 12 capital gods' Sha formation. This does not mean that the 12 capital celestial gods' formation has no impact on today's world. He is no longer of use. On the contrary, as more and more Hongmeng immortal bones are condensed, the power of the 12 capital heavenly gods' formation is also increasing day by day. It was not used in the past because after exchanging the immortal killing sword, all enemies can be easily defeated. But in the current situation, Qin Hao must show his true skills to kill these 7 creatures. Cut. After saying this, Qin Hao held the Zuxian sword and slashed out with the sword in the air. The strike of this sword tore a huge space crack directly in the void, as terrifying and unfathomable as an abyss. There was a sound, and the 9-headed creature that had been knocked away before was directly killed with a sword. This made the 3-eyed creature and the other 7 people even more cold all over their bodies, and there was a bone-chilling chill in their hearts. At this time, Qin Hao, who had deployed the 12 capital heavenly gods formation, was not as good as those quasi-immortal emperors in his ancestral land, but he was probably not far behind. With a killing sword and a magic formation, he abruptly transformed from the immortal king realm to, reaching a level comparable to that of the quasi-immortal emperor. Sure enough, with the increase in prehistoric qi, the killing power of the immortal killing sword has been obviously improved. Qin Hao, who controls the formation of the 12 heavenly gods, has a glint in his eyes. Even though Qin Hao has reached the peak of the immortal king and is enough to dominate among the immortal kings, in fact, he still has not been able to fully understand the power of the immortal killing sword. Show it out. Until now, with the prehistoric energy of the 12 capital gods and evil formation, the immortal killing sword has just begun to show its edge. Send you on your way. After that, Qin Hao's figure flashed, and he swung his sword towards the 3-eyed creature and 7 other people. The endless destructive sword energy, like a river and a tsunami, surged, swept, and exploded. There was a chirping sound. The knot that was already shaking violently the world-killing formation immediately collapsed completely and turned into a vast sea of dark origin. Fusion. Feeling the destructive power that sealed the sky and the earth with nowhere to escape, the 7 mysterious creatures including the 3-eyed creature felt cold all over. But at this critical moment of life and death, they did not flee in panic. Instead, they teamed up to perform an ancient forbidden technique. At this moment, the 7 of them merged into one. After merging with each other, the increase in power was not added to each other, but directly increased by several levels. When the roaring sound rang out, the bright and dazzling fire exploded in the void. The 7 fused creatures actually blocked the overwhelming killing power of the destructive sword energy. Is there only Yuan Shen? Qin Hao's eyes moved slightly. He understood why he had a strange feeling towards these 7 creatures before. Because these 7 creatures have no body, only souls, so they can merge with each other. To be honest, if not the 7 of them merged with each other, and Qin Hao really couldn't detect this. This also reminded Qin Hao of what the Kanglong immortal king said in the past, that there were many powerful souls in the dark ancient temple deep in the sea. Thinking back to the spirit aura exuding from his master's body, Qin Hao had an ominous premonition in his heart. Since these spirit creatures can fuse, can they devour each other? Want to run? At this time, the 7 fused creatures, after blocking Qin Hao's killing calamity, did not want to counterattack, but wanted to tear apart the void and escape into those dark ancient temples. Obviously, from the destructive sword energy just now, they clearly felt how terrifying the Zuxian sword was. Even if the 7 of them merged into one, they were far from Qin Hao's opponent. Now Qin Hao, I'm afraid he can really compete with the quasi-immortal emperor. Die. The trump cards are almost all out. It is naturally impossible for Qin Hao to let these creatures go. Moreover, Qin Hao's original intention of coming here is to seal a dark ancient temple. He wants to know what those dark ancient temples are. Damn it! The way of time and space filled the air. Qin Hao escaped through the air as fast as lightning. Almost in an instant, he appeared in front of the 7 fused creatures. The Zuxian sword carried a dazzling sword light and slashed with incomparable ferocity. Come out, the heaven and the earth will be shaken by it. Forbidden technique, dark cage. At this critical moment of death, the souls of the 7 living creatures spontaneously ignited. A mysterious ancient seal condensed by the power of darkness turned into a dark cage, shrouding Qin Hao to seal off Qin Hao's soul. That dark cage was extremely weird. It actually directly penetrated the killing power of the Zuxian sword. In the blink of an eye, the dark cage shrouded Qin Hao. As for the 7 souls, they were under the Zuxian sword. The soul is scattered, just dispersed. Break. Qin Hao shouted low, and the 12 ancestral wizards roared, exploding with mysterious power. Immediately, the dark cage that exuded a strange and ominous dark energy was shattered. After that, Qin Hao did not hesitate at all and rushed forward immediately. Coming out of the sea of dark origin, I want to smash a dark ancient temple. Boom. But at this moment, a vast and boundless pressure is like the heaven and earth suppressing it, and the vigorous self-realm sea comes from the end of the sea. This is. Qin Hao's eyes narrowed sharply, and he immediately stopped and stared at the distant sea. There, a huge dark ancient palace with a length of thousands of feet appeared. As the billowing darkness filled the air, a giant hand of darkness that covered the sky and sun struck across the boundary sea. Quasi-immortal emperor level. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 265. The dark giant hand covering the sky and the sun was not directed at Qin Hao, but it still gave Qin Hao a feeling of frightening heartbeat. Even at this moment, he was using the 12 heavenly divine evil formation and holding the immortal killing sword, he still couldn't hide the panic that he couldn't suppress. This is amazing. There is no true body coming, just the pressure of the will of law, making people feel like they can't even breathe. If a true quasi-immortal emperor were born, how many enemies could there be in this world? This also made Qin Hao clearly realize the peerless terror of the quasi-immortal emperor. Even though he is now good enough to dominate the immortal king realm, he is still not good enough in front of the quasi-immortal emperor. It seems that the Samsara treasure and the Hongmeng immortal bones are condensed, so they have to enter the city quickly. Qin Hao feels that no matter which of the two reaches a limit, he can be promoted to the quasi-immortal emperor. Quasi-immortal emperor. On the embankment, the expressions of those Kinyu immortal lord and others who were fighting for life and death with the dark creatures all changed drastically. The overwhelming pressure made their souls tremble, and they felt unbearable. A suppressed sense of insignificance arises. Did the emperor take action? Among those dark creatures, there were immortal king-level creatures who felt the aura of the dark giant hand and became ecstatic. Although they seemed to have the upper hand now, the immortal realm still stubbornly blocked their attack. In addition, Qin Hao, who had been trapped before, broke through the killing situation and appeared again, which made the battle situation even more unpredictable. Now that the Emperor of the Dark Imperial Court takes action, even if he does not come, it is definitely enough to completely defeat him. The immortal realm has been destroyed. How can a mere immortal king realm be able to resist the killing power of a quasi-immortal emperor? While Qin Hao was concentrating and looking at the giant dark hand, Qin Hao seemed to sense something and turned his head to look in the direction of the immortal realm. This dark giant hand of the quasi-immortal emperor was heading towards the immortal realm. Because at this time, a terrifying aura that was not weaker than that of the quasi-immortal emperor appeared in the immortal realm. Obviously, that terrifying aura appeared after sensing the giant hand of darkness. Is it the breath of the immortal emperor? Qin Hao's eyes showed double pupils, looking towards the fairyland from a distance. That peerless and terrifying aura was vaguely similar to the aura of the immortal emperor that Qin Hao once felt in the ancient ruins of the immortal realm. If you guessed correctly, it should be the immortal emperor's immortal treasure or an emperor talisman like the Emperor Pass. At this time, in the sky above the immortal realm, a figure blooming with billions of immortal lights rose into the sky. That person is none other than immortal King Taixuan, who is in seclusion in the Qian domain and is preparing to break through the immortal emperor. In the hands of immortal King Taixuan, he holds an ancient box, which is filled with immortal patterns and exudes the aura of an emperor that seems to have come from ancient times. Open. Seeing the giant hand of darkness tearing apart the space wall and descending into the immortal realm, Taixuan immortal king roared angrily. I saw that the immortal laws of the entire 8 realms of the universe were swarming towards Taixuan immortal king. The entire immortal king, the creatures in the domain, all felt an indescribable sense of pressure. Many of the creatures who were cultivating felt that they were blessed by the great laws. As the ancient box opened, a ray of light shone like a star. A fairy-like light burst out of the sky. At this moment, the void of the fairyland suffered a huge impact, causing deep ripples like a tsunami. After the fairy light appeared, a supreme fairy shadow emerged above the 9 heavens. The immortal figure stands with his hands behind his back. Just standing there makes people feel as if he is carrying the entire world on his back. The laws of all heavens and realms are all surrendering at this moment. Immortal, Emperor. Above the embankment, both the immortal monks, whose expressions changed wildly before, and the dark creatures showing ecstasy were all shocked. The chaotic battlefield that was originally full of murderous intent became dead silent at this moment. The gazes of all the creatures, all looking at the giant dark hand and the peerless fairy shadow. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the two violently collided in the void, and the endless laws of heaven and earth exploded and swept across. The sky seemed to be shattered, and countless ancient star fields in the 8 realms of the universe, directly turned into powder. Billions of living creatures died like this without knowing what was going on. Not good. The immortal realm monks and dark creatures on the embankment suddenly woke up at this time and immediately retreated at high speed. The dark creatures fled back to the boundary sea at high speed, while the immortal realm monks tore apart the space and escaped into the air, daring not to return again. Fairyland. Do you want to suppress this emperor just by relying on the immortal emperor's treasure box? After the collision that destroyed the world, a hoarse and gloomy voice came out from the giant dark hand. As the words were heard, dark laws surged in the giant dark hand, and a Dharma body was derived. That was a body. Although the man in the dark robe looks like a human race, he has 4 eyes and red hair on his face. A strange and ominous evil aura emanates from his body. Obviously, this darkness, the creature in Taoist robes, is the emperor of the Dark Emperor Court at the end of the world sea. This is a quasi-immortal emperor with unparalleled killing power. I am afraid that he has already touched the quasi-immortal emperor level before the darkness comes. If you had come, you might still be able to say such big words, but now, you are just a ray of wool, fused with the origin of darkness, and you want to fight against the immortal emperor's treasure box. Taixuan immortal king sneered, his hands changed into seals, and a mysterious Bagua immortal formation emerged from the solace of his feet. At first glance, it seemed that the Bagua immortal formation had just evolved into the 8 major regions of the immortal realm. And then, the immortal realm, the immortal laws of the 8 major regions are all condensed in the Bagua immortal formation. This makes the immortal emperor's treasure box shine brighter and brighter, even making people unable to look directly at it. Boom. The glow of the Immortal Emperor's treasure box makes the phantom of the Immortal Emperor was obviously a little clearer. I saw the phantom of the Immortal Emperor, shot it with a palm in the air, and a Dao seal condensed. The Dao seal contained boundless laws, and seemed to be bombarded by the power of the entire immortal realm. Accompanied by an earth-shattering roar, the giant hand of darkness had no time to react and was directly hit and suppressed by the Tao seal. Countless immortal laws turned into endless chains of immortal order, piercing through the giant hand of darkness. I thought you really gave birth to a quasi-immortal emperor, but it turns out you were just bluffing. On the blocked dark giant hand, the manifested Dark Emperor looked at the Bagua immortal formation at the feet of Takeshuan immortal king and smiled coldly. It seems that the quasi-immortal that the ancestors had sensed before the Emperor's aura is the Bagua immortal formation. Whether you are bluffing or not, you will know clearly when you come here. Taishian immortal king spoke indifferently, with a biting chill in his words. Don't worry, it won't be long before your fairyland will be completely destroyed. Those old guys from the past, in order to not cut off the inheritance, left behind fires, I will crush them one by one. The Dark Emperor also said coldly. Anytime. The murderous intent flashed in Takeshuan immortal king's eyes, the immortal seal changed, and those immortal order chains immediately rattled and rolled, crushing the Dark Emperor into pieces. Just wait, when our army arrives, all the realms of your immortal realm will be annihilated. Along with the cold words, the giant hand of darkness turned into a billowing source of darkness and surged back into the boundary sea. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 266. Is it over? Above the boundary sea, Qin Hao's eyes moved slightly when he saw that scene. Even the quasi-immortal emperor creatures can be suppressed and crushed. It seems that the immortal realm has a lot of trump cards. Poof. At this moment, Takeshuan immortal king's body shook violently, and then his face turned pale, and blood spurted out in large mouthfuls. The Bagua immortal formation at his feet dispersed, and so did the immortal emperor's treasure box that was sacrificed. Then he closed it. Crack. As the thunder flashed, Qin Hao quickly escaped into the air and appeared in front of Takeshuan immortal king. Is this, a Tao injury appearing in the origin? Qin Hao's face changed slightly after sensing the chaotic and unstable aura of Takeshuan immortal king. Takeshuan immortal king had previously used himself as a medium to forcibly integrate the laws of the 8 realms into his body in order to sacrifice that immortal emperor's treasure box. The consequence of this is that the Takeshuan immortal king's body and soul have suffered huge backlash. Even the origin of his Dao seems to have left indelible Dao wounds. This is the Dao injury left by the attack on the immortal emperor realm in the past, not the backlash this time. Taishian immortal king waved his hand carelessly, and then said with a solemn expression, "You come with me." After saying that, Takeshuan immortal king waved his sleeves and took Qin Hao into the ancient secret realm where he had previously retreated. Originally, I wanted to adjust to the best condition and then attack the immortal emperor realm, but now it seems that I have to do it in advance. In the immortal palace, immortal king Takeshuan took the ancient elixir and said seriously, "Will the dark immortal emperor at the end of the boundary sea invade again?" Qin Hao asked. This turmoil in Jahei is just to test our immortal domain to see if a quasi-immortal emperor will be born. If you guessed it right, it should be the battle that caused those dark quasi-immortal emperors to not fully recover from their injuries, so I could not come in person. But it is estimated that they will come back again soon. Therefore, if I fail to attack the immortal emperor realm, I will leave the immortal realm to you in the future. If I really fail, it will prove that my path will not work. Whatever the situation in the immortal realm is, you can do whatever you want. Taishian Immortal King said, and solemnly handed the Immortal Emperor's treasure box to Qin Hao. This Immortal Emperor's treasure box, like the 9-story Immortal Tower, was left by the Immortal Emperors in the past. If it is the Immortal Realm at the critical moment of destruction, this Immortal Emperor's treasure box can unleash the killing power of the Immortal Emperor and help the Immortal Realm survive the crisis. Of course, this depends on whether the sacrificer's cultivation level is enough. If it is not enough, it will suffer backlash. So, obtaining this Immortal Emperor's treasure box is not a good thing. In other words, it is a kind of responsibility. How confident are you of attacking the Immortal Emperor? Qin Hao looked at the Immortal Emperor's treasure box and pondered for a long time before speaking slowly. When he first met Immortal King Taixuan, Qin Hao still had doubts about whether his plan to divide the 8 domains was to eliminate dissidents. But now it seems that Taixuan Immortal King, Kangxian Immortal King and others are all trying to protect the Immortal Realm. However, both sides have different ideas and actions, which is why the final disagreements arise. Haha, so far, no real Immortal Emperor has been born in the Immortal Realm. Who can be sure about this kind of thing? If it doesn't work out, then be benevolent. Taishian Immortal King said with a smile, his expression was free and easy. His original plan was to let Qinyu Immortal Lord succeed him. But after so many years, Qinyu Immortal Lord's cultivation has not made much progress. Therefore, he kept delaying and did not attack the Immortal Emperor realm. But now the appearance of Qin Hao gave him hope. Whether it was combat power or potential, Taixuan Immortal King could rest assured and hand over the Immortal Realm to him. Give it to Qin Hao. In this dark turmoil, the forces in the Immortal Realm have lost at least 1/3, and there cannot be any more major losses in the foreign lands. After that, Immortal King Taixuan spoke, with an obvious intention to let Qin Hao quell the chaos in the foreign lands first. Qin Hao alone can influence the situation of this dark and turbulent battle. To quell the war in a foreign land, not to mention being able to capture it, at least it will not be difficult. Good. Qin Hao did not refuse this, and left the secret realm. Taixuan Immortal King took a deep breath, stepped onto the Immortal Palace Taoist platform with a determined look, and sat cross-legged. The overwhelming Immortal Dao laws swept towards him, and the world was full of them. It's shaking. This time, if we can't defeat the king and become the emperor, we will really die. At this time, the outside world is in the fairyland. Immortal Lord Qinyu and other powerful people from the Immortal Realm who had previously escaped into the void space returned to the Immortal Realm one after another. Is it over? Who was that person who appeared before? When was there such a giant hidden in the Immortal Realm? The aura of the Immortal Emperor, could it be that in the past, the Immortal Emperor left behind descendants? Seeing the disappearance of the Dark Emperor, all the dark creatures in the Sea of World receded, and countless powerful people in the Immortal Realm were discussing and exclaiming. Since the Immortal Realm has not been destroyed, it means that the phantom of the Immortal Emperor has suppressed the dark quasi-immortal Emperor. This naturally makes them happy. With such a peerless giant sitting in the Immortal Domain, even if the Sea of Realm really comes to the quasi-immortal Emperor, they will still be able to fight. Only the Immortal Lord of the Qian Domain, Mu Guang, was slightly solemn. He knew the inside story, but he did not have the same mentality as other monks in the Immortal Realm. No matter how strong the Taixuan Immortal King was, he was only in the Immortal King realm after all. If he sacrificed the Immortal Emperor's treasure box, how many times could he activate it? Forcibly offering sacrifices to the laws of the Immortal Realm, which is also a matter of drinking poison to quench thirst. Once the laws of the Immortal Realm's avenue are completely broken, even if there is no turmoil in the boundary sea, the foreign land alone will be enough to destroy the Immortal Realm. Qinyu Immortal Lord, do you know anything? While countless giants of the Immortal Domain were discussing, Jinyu Immortal Lord suddenly spoke. After hearing this, Qinyu Immortal Lord, "Do immortal lord," and others all turned their eyes to look at "Can you immortal lord?" Judging from the expression of "Can you immortal lord," it seemed that he really knew something about the inside story. Oh! Just when Can you immortal was thinking about whether to tell the matter, a bolt of lightning came through the sky. Everyone was shocked, and only breathed a sigh of relief after seeing clearly that it was Qin Hao. The immortal lord of Kun domain and other immortal king realm giants all greeted Qin Hao one after another. In this dark turmoil, Qin Hao's terrifying combat power shocked all the giants in the immortal domain. In the past, they thought that Qin Hao is only as powerful as the immortal lord. But now, no one would have any objection to Qin Hao being the #1 immortal king in the immortal realm. "Soryo isn't here now?" After feeling it for a while, Qin Hao asked. In the previous battle, although the Kangxiang immortal king was seriously injured, he did not die. Kanglong immortal king has returned to the Nine Heavens world, and seems to be going into seclusion to break through the realm. Can you immortal lord said. Originally, in the immortal realm, only Taixuan immortal king was the only one who had the hope of breaking through to the king realm. But after this battle, the possibility of Kanglong immortal king has greatly increased. As long as a quasi-immortal is born in the immortal realm god, then they can really rest assured. Immortal lord, can you lead 100 immortal kings to guard the embankment to prevent the dark creatures from coming back. Others, follow me to the borderlands to suppress the foreign lands. Hearing this, Qin Hao stopped talking nonsense and arranged directly. Hearing Qin Hao's words, many giants in the immortal domain were slightly startled. In the past, it was the immortal lord of the Qian domain who came to give orders, but now Qin Hao spoke. "Are you preparing to lead the immortal realm?" Fantasy, after thousands of years of seclusion, I became a saint. Author, love to eat chicken legs. Chapter 267. What, you have any objections? Seeing those immortal forces that had become quiet and had a weird atmosphere, Qin Hao asked calmly. This dark turmoil has already left us exhausted. On the other side of the country, we naturally have to minimize losses and divide our troops into two groups. Can you immortal lord opened his mouth, broke the silence, and agreed to Qin Hao's arrangement. This also indirectly recognized Qin Hao's position in charge of the immortal territory. When other immortal territory forces heard about it, they also took action. Although the chaos in the Jihai Sea was peaceful, but the foreign land also makes them a little worried. After all, after the nest is overturned, the eggs are not finished. This time is not the time to fight for power. How is Taixuan immortal king? When the forces in the immortal domain were discussing who should stay and who should go to suppress the foreign domain, the immortal lord of the Qian domain sent a message to Qin Hao. Although the immortal venerable of the Qian domain had not had much contact with Qin Hao was definitely the kind of person who wanted to ask people like him. Now he suddenly stood up and ordered the forces of the immortal domain. The only thing that the immortal lord of the Qian domain could think of was what arrangements the immortal king Taixuan had made. The quasi-emperor at the end of the Sea of Boundaries, who is in retreat, preparing to attack the imperial realm, will most likely come back again. Qin Hao didn't hide anything and said directly. What do you plan to do next? Can you immortal lord's heart sank. It seems that Taixuan immortal king's injury is more serious than he thought. Otherwise, Taixuan immortal king would not have retreated to attack the immortal emperor realm when the immortal territory was in turmoil. I have no intention of taking care of the affairs of the immortal realm. From now on, you will still control the immortal realm. After settling the matter of the foreign land this time, I will start to attack the quasi-immortal emperor realm. Qin Hao directly stated his plan. He could see that Can you immortal lord had no ambition to attack the immortal emperor realm. In other words, he was self-aware and had no hope of attacking the immortal emperor realm. So, this in Qin Hao's view, he is the best candidate to take charge of the immortal realm. No matter whether Taixuan immortal king succeeds or not this time, Qin Hao has no intention of controlling the immortal realm. Under the Emperor realm, everything is an ant. Qin Hao is prepared to get rid of this potential threat from its source. If the dark turmoil at the end of the World Sea is not eliminated, the immortal realm will never have peace. But if you want to suppress the end of the World Sea, at the very least, you must have a quasi-immortal emperor. Only with a certain level of cultivation. Do you want to retreat too? The immortal Lord Kinyu was shocked. Although he wanted to take charge of the immortal realm, he knew that he was not strong enough. If Qin Hao also retreats to attack the Emperor realm, if the chaos in the realm sea comes again, no one can stop it. This time the sea was in turmoil, and although the immortal territory army also played a role, only Qin Hao and Taixuan immortal king really played a decisive role. In the short term, the dark creatures in the boundary sea should not make any big moves again. As for the foreign affairs, I will put an end to them completely this time. During the conversation between Qin Hao and Kinyu Immortal Lord, the immortal domain forces had already made a decision. Among the 8 immortals, only Kinyu Immortal Lord stayed, while Kunyu Immortal Lord, Jinayu Immortal Lord and others all went. Suppress foreign lands. Phew. An ancient warship filled with fairy light appeared, and a black hole-like space channel evolved. The warship escaped from the sky and disappeared in the black hole in an instant. Kill. A moment later, an earth-shattering cry of killing reached everyone's ears. Just as they broke out of the sky, they felt the murderous aura that was not weaker than that of the dark creatures, and the air was filled with the strong smell of blood. Qin Hao opened his eyes and saw an endless battlefield of stars. It was obvious that all the ancient stars of life in this radius, which were the ancient universe, were completely annihilated. This is normal. Millions of immortals creatures and foreign immortals are fighting, and there are tens of thousands or even tens of thousands of immortal king giants and foreign immortal kings. Such a devastating impact, no matter where it is placed, is definitely a disaster. Just like over there in the fairyland, the dark creatures are in turmoil. If it weren't for the boundary sea, the fairyland would probably be shattered. Reinforcements from the immortal realm. What happened? Could it be that the other side of the boundary sea failed? Seeing the mighty army from the immortal realm, all the alien creatures changed their colors. Looking at the murderous looks of the immortal realm monks, there was no sign of defeat at all. This was obviously the dark turmoil in the boundary sea. Was suppressed. This also made the top giants of the foreign land unable to conceal their horror. Could it be that a quasi-immortal emperor was really born in the fairyland? Very good. Support is finally here. Kill them. The Liu Immortal Lord and others, who were covered in blood and scarred, looked overjoyed. Their momentum became more and more high, and they rushed towards the alien creatures without fear of death. They wanted to entangle the alien creatures and let the immortal realm come to help. Surrounded by strong men, these foreign lands will be destroyed. Withdraw. Those top giants from foreign lands were also quite straightforward. Without any hesitation, they immediately ordered to evacuate. Kill them. The immortal army on the warship immediately roared out like a torrent and rushed into the battlefield. The already chaotic battlefield became more and more destructive and violent at this moment, and lives were lost every moment. Qin Hao's eyes, looking at the top giants in the foreign land. Even if ordinary foreign creatures are killed, they will not feel any pain or itching in the foreign land. But when Qin Hao looked at the void far away, his eyes suddenly condensed. He saw a dark ancient palace floating in the distant sky. There were many foreign creatures entering that dark palace. The ancient palace disappeared. This further confirmed Qin Hao's guess in Jihai. These dark ancient palaces most likely have the ability to teleport arrays. That ability should exceed any teleportation array, and is even more amazing than the laws of time and space. Because there is no teleportation array in the immortal realm, which can be so powerful that it can directly cross the boundary sea and arrive. Whoa! With a flash of lightning, Qin Hao rushed towards the dark ancient palace as fast as a killing array. When the immortal killing sword was swung, the sky was filled with the bloody light exploded, and all living creatures along the way were killed. Quasi-immortal emperor soldiers. Is this person? The immortal kings from foreign lands immediately noticed Qin Hao, and when they felt the overwhelming killing blow emitted by the immortal killing sword, many immortal kings from foreign lands changed their colors. The killing power was so terrifying that even the giants of the immortal kings would feel frightened. No, he's targeting the temple. Suddenly, an immortal king came back to his senses, saw Qin Hao's intention, his face changed drastically, and he immediately fled to the sky to stop Qin Hao. The temple is the gateway to the Boundary Sea. Without this temple, there wholly all the older giants who went to the Boundary Sea before the territory found it difficult to come back. Roar. Accompanied by the sound of roaring dragons, the immortal king used his magical power of destruction. He transformed into a dragon with his left hand and a tiger with his right hand. Between the dragon and the tiger, there was boundless killing and calamity. Evolution. Poof. A giant immortal king in the immortal domain tried to resist, but was directly torn to pieces by the dark dragon and tiger, leaving no bones left. Die. Qin Hao's eyes were cold, and he slashed out with his sword. The light of the sword was as bright as a star, tearing apart the 9 heavens, and a huge black space crack appeared in the void.